Representative Roy, thank you for joining me here at the Texan.
Happy to be here, Cameron. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. It's good to be here.
How's convention treating you so far?
It's good. I mean, unfortunately, because duty called and I was in D.C. Through Thursday, came back yesterday. I had an event in San Antonio yesterday because we got slots at the airport here finally to D.C., which took a lot of work by the Texas delegation, particularly Senator Cruz. So I was here, but I was able to be here. So this is my first day here. So a lot of energy, a lot of people. I think they're getting a little tired, a lot of voting last couple of days. So they'll finish strong today.
Yeah, well, tell me a little bit about this FAA authorization that you guys are working on, because getting these flights into San Antonio has been a hard thing to do. So tell me a little bit about what you guys have been doing.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's been a multi-decade problem. Without getting into the weeds, San Antonio was on the outside looking in because of this arcane called perimeter rule, where we weren't allowed to have a direct flight from San Antonio to Reagan National Airport, which is right by the Pentagon. When you've got as much military activity that you have in San Antonio, have this many bases, that many veterans, that many active duty, it was really critical to have that direct flight, but it's taken decades because you couldn't break the back of the Virginia and the Maryland delegation. But finally, between my work on Rules Committee and the delegation, and a bipartisan basis, I mean, Joaquin Castro and others, we worked on it together. We had to kind of whip hard, and then truly the leadership of Senator Cruz over and his ranking membership over there, we were able to get this through. 5 slots. American Airlines has applied for a slot. Deal's not done yet, but hopefully in the next 60 days, American will get that flight, and then finally San Antonio will have a direct flight to Reagan.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Senator Cruz has been working hard on this as well. It's been very interesting to follow. Another thing I wanted to ask you about is the SAVE Act.
Yeah, sure.
Because election integrity, it's been something that's continually talked about. So tell me a little bit about the SAVE Act and why it's so necessary.
Yeah, well, right now, federal law does in fact require that you be a citizen to vote, but unfortunately, federal law also limits or restricts the ability of states to be able to actually enforce it and get the information necessary to determine if you're in fact a citizen. So we decided not just to clear that, but also to actually require it. So the SAVE Act would require that you provide documentary proof of citizenship to register to vote in the United States in a federal election. We think that's an 87% issue that only citizens should vote in an election. So we think it's critically important, and you got jurisdictions. I mean, look, even the D.C., District of Columbia, has been training people on trying to get non-citizens to vote. San Francisco, Oakland, New York, other jurisdictions across the country. So we need to make it 100% clear that you must be a citizen and prove it to vote in federal elections. The SAVE Act got through committee last week. I hope it'll be on the floor when we get back the first week of June, and I hope we'll pass it out and send it over to the Senate. Now, obviously, we don't expect Chuck Schumer to do a dance, but I'll tell you this. Last week, we had a vote to prohibit Washington, D.C. from allowing illegal aliens and non-citizens to vote, and it passed with like 50 Democrat votes. So I'd like to see, let's get this SAVE Act done. Let's see how many Democrats are willing to vote against requiring proof of citizenship.
Well, what do you expect some of the opposition to the SAVE Act will be? Like you said, you got the Washington, D.C. piece by. What is going to be some of the opposition you expect?
Well, what I would expect to hear, and I'm sure they'll do it, is they'll try to say that we're going to somehow impede the ability of regular citizens to vote, right? That if you put a requirement in place, that it will be, quote, a burden or an undue burden, which is constitutional language, to say that we're limiting their constitutional right to vote. I don't believe that's true. I think that we could structure it in such a way, just as you do with anything. You get on an airplane, you got to show ID, you got to show passports to fly internationally. In order to do just virtually anything. You go to a sporting event now, you pretty much have to show ID.
Right.
So we can do it in a way that will not limit somebody's access. You can make it affordable, easy, so that it's not a burden. There is a certain amount of duty that comes with being a citizen, and I think you kind of meet that sort of bare standard. But we don't think it's that complicated, but that's what they'll try to throw up. They'll try to say that we're going to be limiting people's right to get to the ballot, but that's not true. We're making it to where American citizens, every American citizen's vote will count. If we don't do this, their votes really, truly don't count.
Right. And if I can switch topics just for a moment, the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, you spoke out in opposition to that, and we've seen here in Texas, we saw Abbott issue an executive order in regards to anti-Semitism on college campuses. We've seen protests jump up. Why were you so opposed to the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act? And just tell us, what does that mean in terms of the free speech, First Amendment rights, and things of that nature?
Well, first of all, obviously, I've been a loud opponent of anti-Semitism and standing up. We had a hearing just 2 weeks ago where we had students from Penn and from Harvard, a great testimony from a rabbi who's expert on the issue, making very clear what's been happening on campus is horrific. But my view is we're winning. We're winning by exposing it. We're winning by being champions of free speech. We're being champions of freedom of the press. Expose the idiot in UCLA who looked at the kid and said, "Are you a Zionist?" and the kid said, well, yeah, I'm a Zionist. He said, you can't come on. Guess what? Most Americans look at that and they're offended by it and they want to stop it. It puts pressure on UCLA. It puts pressure on the universities like Harvard and Penn, or I say UT. Jay Hartzell did a fantastic job as the president of UT in allowing people to speak, but not allowing them to have encampments and take over a university. Right. Ben Sasse did that in Florida. I don't think you need new federal laws to get us into the thought police business. I don't want to be in the business of defining what people can think or say. I want to have the federal government do its job primarily to secure this country. State and local law enforcement do its job to say, look, you're being a jackass, you're breaking the law, you're endangering people. You're targeting a group of people and trying to limit their ability to move freely around a campus. If they're Jewish, if they're white, if they're black, if they're whatever, then go after them, stop it. But you want to get the government into the thought police business, I've got a concern with that. And I'm tired of politicians who go to Washington or go to Austin and they want an easy political vote. They want to slap something down on paper and say, oh, look at me, I'm against anti-Semitism. I'm like, what, you needed a friggin' bill to tell the world you're against anti-Semitism? Like, just stand up and enforce the law. But don't create more laws that'll be used to actually target every American citizen with the power of government. That's why I oppose that bill. I'm loudly and proudly in opposition to that bill, but I'm loudly and proudly in opposition to anti-Semitism. I want to stamp it out. And we introduced legislation last week that I'm the lead author of with 65 co-sponsors to go after the International Criminal Court for targeting Bibi Netanyahu. We can be pro-Israel, we can be against anti-Semitism without expanding the government to meddle in the business of the American people.
Right. Well, I want to ask you sort of a big overarching question.
Sure.
We're seeing sort of fracturing of different groups within the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Right? People with different principles or different ideas about proper governance. Why do you think this sort of fracturing is occurring? We see it at the federal level, we see it at the state level, we see it here in the state party convention. So why is that sort of fracturing of different groups within the Republican Party happening?
Well, like, first of all, look, it's not like differences of opinion are new. I mean, right now we at least today don't have the former vice president and secretary of Treasury dueling in the streets, right? We've had that happen in our past, right? So it's reasonably calm, actually. But in the current context, what you're experiencing is we're in a stretch of what I would call a sort of Cold War within the Republican Party for a battle for the soul of the party in the country. What you're seeing is this is no longer the party that's just reflexively your kind of country clubby, tax cut, whatever big government, big corporations, Wall Street, whatever they want. It's no longer whatever the Chamber of Commerce says about open borders and cheap labor. It's no longer, just default to whatever the leadership says and get in line while we allow our country to get dismantled bit by bit. You have people who want to go up there and actually do what they said they were going to do. People like me and others that in the Freedom Caucus, but not just Freedom Caucus, there are a lot of people up there. Look at the votes. We had 55 Republicans who voted to take down a rule the Speaker of the House put on the floor. We had a majority of Republicans oppose the Speaker on a spending bill, on the foreign aid package. We had other issues where you had significant opposition. And I think that actually sends a very strong message that there's an interest in reclaiming the Republican Party for the conservatism that they all campaign on, but then when they get to Washington, they don't do. So that's what you're seeing unfold. I think it's a good thing. It's healthy. Yeah. But you know what? We need to actually now unite, head into November, win the elections, but then we're going to have a battle in November about how you set the rules and how you structure things in order to make sure that we do things the right way.
Right. Well, how does that unity occur? Does it happen with you making better arguments to your fellow Congress members, or is it new Congress members coming in? What is the process of this unity of a new Republican Party?
Yeah, it's all of the above. I mean, and frankly, it's a president, and President Trump, as we come out of the convention in July, and everybody rallying around what will most assuredly be a strong first 100 days and a 4-year stretch for President Trump. And look, I'm well documented. I don't always agree with President Trump, but at the end of the day, President Trump loves his country, wants to secure this border. We had a strong economy. He was strong overseas, strong with Israel, was the Abraham Accords. We had a stronger military. I can go down the laundry list. I can keep going. Good Supreme Court appointees, not always perfect, but good. Yeah. And look, we've got to unite around an agenda that will excite the American people. Republicans can't just be their granddaddy's Republican Party. We've got to be something that is new, different, energetic, exciting, appeal to younger folks, and I think we're doing that. I think Trump's doing that a little bit. You saw him with the Bronx rally. But look, what we do right now is we've got 5 months. We should unify. We don't have that many more legislative fights the rest of this year.
Right.
So unite around the ideas, right? What do we say? You've got to cut this rampant spending. You've got to undo the damage of the Biden administration and free up American energy. You have got to make sure you free up health care so you can go to the doctor of your choice. You have got to secure the border of the United States, and you can't question it. You've got to deport people who came here who are going to carry out harm against the American people. And you've got to have a strong military, but it needs to be sparingly used. Stop engaging in endless conflict. I think most of those things align with Trump, and I think they all align with the basic convictions of conservatives, so we should all rally around them.
Awesome. And before I let you go, you're going to be headed back up to the Hill here pretty soon.
Yeah.
What's something that you have your eye on that you don't think enough people are talking about right now?
Well, the first thing is getting that SAVE Act done that we just talked about, make sure we protect citizenship voting. I think we ought to pass this rebuke of the International Criminal Court to defend Israel against the assault against it, which is happening by the international community. And I think we need to make sure that the National Defense Authorization Bill is a strong conservative bill that is going to wrestle the Defense Department away from the woke mob that is destroying it from within. So I think if we do those things, and then you just need to pass a continuing resolution into the next year and be done. Get out, campaign, and go win. Right. I think that's what we're going to see over the next few months.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Cameron.
Yep.